So, I don't know how much stock you put in preseason polls, but it came out today. So, your thought on where you were picked? Do you use that as fodder? Do you just ignore it, not say anything? How do you use that when you address it with your team?
Yeah, don't address it a ton, to be honest. Don't put a lot of thought into it, one way or the other. Been in situations over the course of my career where we've been picked really low to start the year and finished really high, and then have been times where we were picked higher in leagues and didn't finish as high as we got picked. So don't put a lot of thought into it, honestly. Kind of one of those control what you can control deals, and there's a lot of good teams and a lot of good coaches and a lot of good players in the league.
Football coaches didn't want it. Was there any discussion on the basketball coaches just getting rid of it?
No. I saw that they had mentioned that, which it makes sense. There's so much turnover from year to year, and I mean, you really are on some levels you're guessing. Not with everybody. Obviously, some of the teams at the top that have a good majority or really important pieces back. Those are kind of easy picks, I would say. But no, we didn't really discuss that on the basketball side.
Did you see the Ken Palm that rated you? I guess you right on the cusp with what you have. What's your thoughts on that?
Not a lot. Ken Palm is going to always factor in a little bit of historical data with their preseason, rankings. Your adjusted defense from the years in the past will weigh into that, and then if you have had like Division I transfers, what they did at their previous spots, they kind of factor that in as well. But if it's like a freshman or a junior college transfer, they actually have nothing data-wise to look back on it. So, it's not, again, you can't really control it per se. It is a barometer of where you're starting at least, and if you can take advantage of some of your non-conference opportunities, and you can climb the ladder a little bit that way.
I think home court advantage factors into that too, right? So that would play a part in it.
Correct. Yeah, weighs into it, and certainly, like I've mentioned, Ken Palm has Hope Coliseum as the number one home court advantage in all of college basketball.
One more there. I know you've gotten to practice in there now. What is your thoughts on getting the team in there and playing, and what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I think you're just you're looking forward to playing someone else. I think it starts there. These guys have kind of been playing against each other really since June. So it starts there, and then when you take it one step further, whether it's the exhibition against Wheeling on the 26th or your opener, just getting crowds are real things in college basketball. They impact games. They make a difference. And, historically we've had one of the best home court advantages, and I think a lot of that is the crowd that we have on top of that.
Have you talked to anybody else about the crowd that played in here, colleagues, just to, they talk about how it's dark and how it's just kind of an eerie feeling.
There's not one person that has played in here that doesn't mention the gunshot being shot before tip-off. Like literally every single person you talk to, and then they talk about how hard of a place it is to play and how passionate and intense the fan base is. But they usually start with the musket firing because it's right there by their bench. And, for anybody that, if it's their first time, if they've been here, if they're veterans, then they know and they can kind of prepare themselves. But it gets those, the first timers, it gets them pretty good.
The one word you hear is uncomfortable. It's the trip here. It's kind of like a clamshell in the middle of the mountains. You got all these different things, and then you got to play a game in there.
Yeah. No, it's again, people that played here, they talk about the gunshot, then they just talk about how intense the crowd is. And it is a big building. Obviously, there's it's a massive structure, but the way it's constructed, it can also still feel like it's right on top of you a little bit, oddly, for such a big building. It is vertical, especially that bottom tier is pretty vertical, and I do think it can give you a sense that, man, this crowd's on top of us right now.
You mentioned the non-conference
conference. How do you feel with the final product you guys put together, and is that sort of a template for how you want to do it in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I do like what we were able to get. Obviously, you'd always moving forward. You'd like to have retention, because I do think some retention is big. Whether it's, if you can have 4 or 5 guys back nowadays, that's a big number. But I was pleased with what we were able to get, and just looking forward to seeing it play out against somebody else at this point.
A little different tack. Strength and conditioning for you. You a big strength component guy? I mean, where are you in terms of wanting lifting? Is it something you started when you first began coaching? How important is the strength aspect to it?
Yeah, I think ironically, everyone is important in your program. And I talk about that at length with every player, every student assistant, GA. We all have equal value. We all have different roles, but everyone is valuable. But if you were going to try to place some level of value outside of that, of everyone being important, I do think your strength coach and your trainer may be the most important people in your program, mainly because they're around your guys more than anyone else. They're around our team. Our strength coach, Coach Martinez, who I think is one of the best in the country, and we've talked about some of the gains and some of the transformations that he's helped take place with some of these guys this summer, Harlan mainly. But I mean, he's around our guys more than I am, and so I do think it's very important. I've always thought it was important to try to support him the best that I can. Have a ton of trust in him. And yeah, they're in a lot of ways, they're the lifeblood of your program.
Do you lift a lot during the season, or is that a more off-season work for you in terms of just lifting?
Well, you're going to be consistent throughout. Obviously, your days change when you start playing in the season. You have 2 games a week, sometimes 3, and so you're going to try to be smart with it. You do use the spring and the summer, although everybody's spring is cut a lot shorter now because of the transfer portal. But you do lose that summer, and if you're trying to, again, everybody kind of has goals and data sets they're trying to hit. Some guys are trying to gain, some guys are trying to get loose, some guys are trying to, add good muscle, and so that's kind of the summer. And then when you start transitioning to now, it becomes more maintenance. And again, we have so many resources available, not only with your strength and conditioning coach, but our nutritionist, Matt Danello, head of athletic trainer. And so that's what you're trying to look through the course of the season. Can you maintain your muscle mass, and not become deficient in those areas when you're playing?
Do you have a final number on how much weight Harlan lost?
Go back to my JUCO math days. I think came in 305, 3 somewhere around there, and he's 265, 267 now. So, was that 35, 30, 35?
For a 7-footer, where is he skill-wise? Obviously 7-footers in the modern game is different than it was when you got into basketball.
Yeah, he's got he has incredible hands. And he has really good feet. Probably some of it, he was a highly recruited football player out of high school, and you can certainly see why, because he can move for a man of his size, and he's got really soft hands, and he's a good facilitator. He's a really good passer. Honestly, we probably need him to be a little more aggressive, because his first instinct is to pass. He likes to pass out of the post, even when he has really good deep post position, and then he, again, what I think the weight loss helps him the most is just being able to do it for longer stretches. But he's light, he can move. He's just got to continue to get in cardio shape where you can take that 18-20 minutes a game and try to extend it a little bit into 22 or 25 minutes a game would be a good number for him.
Can he pick and pop?
To pass, and he's improved his his 3-point shooting. It's a good looking shot. He's got great touch. I don't think it's something that we would really ask him to do a lot of, but he is very comfortable catching the ball on the perimeter and being a playmaker out of that position, whether it's moving it to that side or finding open players on the same side.
So the ball doesn't get stuck with him.
No, he's really good at facilitating up there.
Ross, how did you land on Maryland? Is there a connection there with Williams or?
Yeah, there's I guess they say there's always a West Virginia connection, but in this case there was a Texas connection. Buzz is from Texas. He was a GA at Kingsville, I believe, and that's where Coach Estelle on our staff was a GA there. Coach Estelle, Johnny, was the head coach at Navarro Junior College. And the head coach at Navarro Junior College was a man named Lewis Orr, who's in the Junior College Hall of Fame, was there forever. Buzz was also a student assistant at Navarro, and as was Sam Walker, who I worked for and played for at Texas A&M Commerce. So there was a lot of connections just historically through that way. And then Sean McClurg, our video coordinator, I think was a student assistant for Buzz at Virginia Tech. And so there was just a lot of connections, a lot of people, and obviously they got the job and we got the job, and with the location and the proximity of both programs, thought it would be easy travel and good game. So we'll return it to their place next year.
And then when you whoever you throw out, whatever rotations you have, how much of that is based on who's earned it from your first time you roll the ball out until the first time you actually get to play? And how much of it is projecting of, I think it's going to look like this when they count, or I think I want it to look like this when we get to
Combination of both. Because you want to reward people that are doing what you're asking you to do and doing it at a high level. And then you do have your kind of like lineup combinations that you're going to eventually get to and play with, that you want to make sure you're looking at those during these scrimmage situations as well.
You may find that one kind of bleeds into the other eventually, that the guys who are doing what you ask them to do or what they're supposed to do, those are the guys who typically play because reliability,
Yes,
performance.
100%.
Okay.
You mentioned needing more aggressiveness sometimes from Harlan. How do you get that out of him?
Just showing him. I mean, he's a very intelligent player. Again, it's a good problem, because I think everybody's seen or played with, kind of black holes, or, once they get it down there, they won't kick it out of there no matter what. And so I think it's just realizing that sometimes you don't want to coach unselfishness out of people, but by sometimes being too unselfish in a weird way, you become selfish because it's hurting our team. And so, you just have to show them on film and communicate it with them and encourage them.
You said Brennan can play the 5, but is there like a true backup center behind Harlan?
Brennan, DJ, and Jackson, when he returns, would be kind of your 4-man rotation of the 4s and the 5s. And again, it kind of give you different ways to play. You can play one way when Harlan's in there. You can play other ways when those other guys are in there.
What is Jackson's status return-wise? Do you have projection?
Not specifically a projection. He gets the pins out in his thumb on the 20th next week, and then it really becomes how quickly can you strengthen it and get him back comfortable. Not that there's ever good things that come from injuries, but I guess if you were looking for one silver lining, again, it was his left hand. So he's been able to run, shoot, and participate in a lot of non-contact drill work, basketball-wise. So you just got to get him back used to being comfortable. And so I think when they get that out, we'll have a more accurate kind of timeline with that.
And then with Chance, I think I have this right. You said he play in the exhibition, both of these, but do you limit him knowing he's not going to play in the first 5 and you got to establish your rotation, or do you get more out of him knowing he isn't going to be playing a lot?
No, I think you, especially this first one, you'll treat it like you were going to have him, and you'll just play them like you would play any other normal game throughout the regular season. Won't try to put any sort of like, well, he's not going to be able to play in the first game, so let's not play him, because you'll have lineups and you'll have lineup combinations that you're going to play, whether he's available or unavailable. Just those lineups and those lineup combinations may have to play a little longer.
Back to Mike's question about Maryland. Will you talk to Buzz ahead of time and say, can we see this? You want this? Do you work ahead, or you just show up and play and then draw conclusions after that?
No, there's a little bit. There's a little bit of communication, just so you're not walking into it completely blind, and not like to the extent of what you would do in a regular season game, but you want to practice your preparation and how you do things, so your players can get in some rhythm. Okay, like, well, this is what, if they do this, this is what we'll do this. So more than anything, as it's not so much like what they're doing necessarily, but it's just being able to present that to your team to get them used to receiving information, retaining information, game planning a little bit, and then having some flexibility within the game if you need to make adjustments as well. So, we both kind of like, hey, communicate a little bit. We'll probably do this, and largely coaches are creatures of habit, not all the time, but usually there's going to be some similarities from team to team. You look at Coach Williams' teams in the past. I mean, they were the best offensive rebounding team in the country last year. They lived at the foul line. They're physical, they're aggressive. Those things aren't going to change, But you do kind of say, hey, well, are you going to press this at all? And you communicate those things ahead of time, just so you're at least like, if you're not all the way prepared, you're not just stepping out there, giving your team no chance.
It's the bottom line is you both got to get something out of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's really no secrets. Once you start playing games, you may be able to have a couple things up your sleeve in game one or game two, but eventually you're going to be playing against opponents that know what you're going to do, and they're going to have a game plan for what you're trying to do. And so you kind of want that too when you're playing in exhibitions or scrimmages.
What's your policy about information? Obviously, they've loosened the information on it. Usually in the past, the team that won, it got out, and the team that didn't play well, it didn't get out. So how do you go about that?
I mean, the thing I've learned now is like these things are getting out. Like whether you want it to get out or not. So, we had a harder time when we were at North Texas. We always had a harder time getting kind of marquee scrimmages and exhibitions, so we were always like very cognizant of not wanting it to get out of respect, and I think last year we scrimmaged SMU and they were a little banged up, and we scored more than they did in that in the period of the exhibition and all that. And I remember walking off the floor telling my staff, like, look, man, like, I do not want this out. And we broke down the team and grabbed my phone, and it was already out. It didn't even come from us, So
It's out.
So yeah, it's getting out one way or the other, So that's happening.
Do you do a scout for this game, even though you just to get your players used to taking in that information, so you do it like sort of a normal game?
Yep. Because like I said, you want to prepare your players, not so much necessarily for this game specifically, but prepare them for the season and kind of get them used to, hey, this is going to be our routine 2 days out. This is our routine, before a game. This is when we'll kind of start watching film. This is when we'll introduce personnel. This is when we'll start making some adjustments, just so they can at least get the ebb and the flow, and again, practice, true scouting report details the best you can. You don't want this person shooting threes. You don't want this person driving left. This is kind of the first time you're doing that, so you got to practice that too.
You
still get nervous as preseason comes along, or has that kind of gone away as the experiences come?
No, you get nervous. Yeah, you get nervous. I wouldn't say it's like nervousness, but there's definitely like an anxiousness and a little pit of anxiety that like gets about right here in your stomach, and it doesn't leave until probably, hopefully, that Monday in April. But it's like it's right there. It's here. It's here. Got here about a week and a half ago. I was like, oh yeah, this is about to be on. So it doesn't. It's that's part of it. And that's a good feeling. I try to explain that to our players and coaching friends and anyone that gets to experience that. That's a blessing to feel that feeling. A lot of people don't get to experience that anxiety and that nervous energy and the highs and lows of everything that comes with this sport.
You talked about connections earlier. You added a new assistant coach. What were there connections there, and what does he bring to the table?
Yeah, Yusuf Ali. There were some people that I was really close to that were close to him. And, when we were kind of looking around trying to figure out what our staff needed to be rounded off with and kind of where our weaknesses may have been and what were some of our strengths, and felt like Yusuf really aligned with those core values of what we believe in, but then also can really expand, internationally. He's got great relationships, both, within the United States. Obviously, he's from Canada, and just nationally, he's really respected, does a great job, building relationships and connecting with people, and we're happy to have him.
Ross, is this going to be more like a game scrimmage, or you break it down to like periods where, hey, can we work on sideline out of bounds? Can you throw some zone at us? How does that go?
Yeah, we won't. I don't think we're still kind of working out all the kinks on it, but I don't think we're going to do specific segments of, hey, let's have a zone segment, let's have a press segment. I think those will just kind of get worked into, kind of worked into the framework of the scrimmage itself. I think kind of the last time, and we'll sure it up, but I think more than likely, I think we'll go, 2 20-minute halves that you kind of start the score over each time, and then maybe a 10-minute additional for maybe some of the guys that didn't get to play as much in the 40 minutes.
When the box scores from these secret scrimmages always get leaked, fans jump to conclusion that this guy's going to be the star, this guy won't be good, whatever. Do the box scores, do they tell the whole story of a secret scrimmage? They can, right?
No. I'll give you another example. So 3 years ago, we scrimmaged Mississippi State when we were at North Texas, and they were good. They were NCAA tournament team. They were coming back, and we tipped in a shot at the buzzer that probably should have counted, but the West rated out. Obviously, you don't review it, and we ended up losing by one. Could have won by one, whatever. And you walked away. Initially, you're feeling pretty good, and then you get a box score, and our starting center had 11 fouls. Which probably would have drastically changed the outcome of that game. You know what I'm saying? He probably would have fouled out in the first 4 minutes. So I think more than anything, obviously you always want to win. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We just left practice and we're doing some inter squad scrimmage in blue versus white. I mean, you want to win, But personally, what I would like to see you coming out of this first time out is making sure we have really tight huddles and free throw situations, make sure our bench is into it and supporting each other, moving on from negative plays. There's going to be negative plays. Can you match their physicality when the ball's on the floor? Do you come up with it? Those are the things that I would take away from this, regardless of the score necessarily, but if you're seeing those things and your guys are doing that, then it was a good day.
When you went back and looked at the tape, did you look at what the score was when he had his fourth foul?
I didn't, but I just I remember I was like, man, and even that aforementioned the scrimmage last year against SMU, I think we probably would have had about 7 guys foul out. So it again, you're playing, you want to win, but more than anything, you kind of want to see. You want to see those things. You want to see a group that's together, that's learning how to support each other, that can move on from negative plays, that can stay the course, and that's together.
Ross, I don't know if you caught this from football during the week, but Rich was talking about the cap for revenue sharing and then NIL above it, and what's ideal, what's available, whatever. But I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but what do you think if you can go above the cap to be competitive, to reach for goals that are realistic for y'all in the Big 12? I'm sure that means championships and things like that, but is there a number there based on what you know about what you've done so far and what you're competing against in the Big 12?
Yeah, there's again, I think there's so many questions still surrounding the House settlement and what third-party entities are going to be able to do above and beyond rev share. I know people are still trying to figure that out, as are we. Moving forward, like what are real numbers? And I think, if you're looking at teams in our league, there's a wide variety of it. I don't know if it's going to be able to remain because there's communication and there's a lot of talk from the top and obviously the league commissioners of wanting to try to get some parameters, wanting to make it harder to they just call it like cap circumvention, and try to get maybe a little more level of a playing field. Not that you're not always going to have – somebody's always going to have a little more. Someone's going to have a little less. I think what people would like to see would like a little more parity, I guess you would say, in the resources available. If you're just looking at professional sports models, there's NBA has luxury tax, NFL has a hard cap, and so I think just kind of defining that helps with your question of trying to figure out exactly, what you need moving forward. Because when it's just an open, when like this last year, if it's just a kind of a open check and whoever raises the most money has the most money to spend at their disposal, you're going to get massive disparities in who's spending what.
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Game day traditions for West Virginia, carpet, some of those things, untouchable for you. Do you maintain all that? Will the carpet still come out? Will we still see all that? Have you even thought about that yet?
Haven't thought about it a ton. Certainly, again, I'm a traditionalist, so I'm not coming in trying to upset the apple cart. Like I've mentioned before in other interviews, areas, I really feel like I'm a caretaker of this program. I'm fortunate to be in this situation, and so certainly want to honor everyone that has been here before me, whether it's fans, former players, administrators, and anytime you can. In my opinion, anytime you can tie the past with the present, it helps you in the future.
Bucky Waters got rid of it, and he was hated.
Yeah, well, then I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Yeah, I told you I'll take the over.
Yeah, there you go.
Been a safe bet.
20 seconds over.
Thank y'all.